Hi, happy International Yoga Day. My name is Romy, and my mission in life is to help people manage their energy so that they can have access to their vitality so they can do their work in the world. And one of the ways that I do that is through yoga. And today I wanted to start in this pretzel position because I think that this is what most people think of yoga is poses where you put yourself in all kinds of funny positions, and maybe they think about it as far as breath work and meditation. But I wanted to share with you what I love about yoga is that it's an entire practice that is such an amazing tool for you to orient your life, to not only be physically strong, but to also have principles and disciplines that you can use to guide you as like your moral GPS. And so I don't know if you know that there's 8 full paths to yoga, and this poster really demonstrates this. And so yoga is thousands of years old, and it was an oral tradition that was passed down from teacher to student. And in those early days, students would dedicate their entire life to a teacher and to learn the practice of yoga, to learn the 8-fold path of yoga or the 8-limb path of yoga. First thing, the first path, as you can see, it's more like spokes on a wheel, so you don't have to pass one step to get to the other. The very first thing that the teachers would teach were moral principles, yamas, universal moral principles that we can all agree to live by. And the first yama is nonviolence. Second one is truth. Third one is asteya or non-stealing, brahmacharya, moderation, or non-hoarding. And so these principles help us to know how to act with ourselves. And the most important one is non-violence, this principle that tells us to act with love, act without violence, and to lead with love. And the second principle is truth, non-stealing, moderation, non-hoarding. Maybe they remind you of some other disciplines or principles that you may have learned in your life growing up. And the second path to yoga is niyamas. Niyamas are personal disciplines. So the yogis gave us things to discipline ourselves so that we could have a more pure, more connected, contented life. And the first discipline is purity. The second one is contentment or saucha, self-discipline or tapas, self-study or svadhyaya, and surrender to a higher power, ishvara pranidhana. Now, what I love about these principles and disciplines that the yogis don't necessarily tell you, this is the rule, this is what it should be like. They tell you, what would it be like for you to act in a non-violent way? What does it mean to speak your truth even when it's difficult? What does moderation look like for you and for me? What does devotion to a higher power look like? Devotion to the divine, devotion to God. What does that look like for you and for others? And so those are the first 2 paths of yoga. And then there's asana, the physical postures, the ones like this that make you strong, flexible, and balanced in your body, and helps to calm your central nervous system so that you can have time to sit in stillness and meditate. Pranayama is mindful breathing. So this idea of focusing on our breath and making a way for breath to flow fully through our bodies. We can never really control our breath, but the asana practices and these moral principles and disciplines help us to create a space in our bodies where our breath can flow. The 5th limb of yoga is turning inward, this idea of going inside to see what's going on as opposed to going out. So tuning into our senses so that we can be sensitive to our mind, our body, and our spirit. Dharana, which is like this idea of concentration and focused attention, which leads to dhyana, which is meditation. So meditation is our ability to focus on our breath, to focus on one thing so that we can create more space in our lives. As we create more space between our breaths, we can create more space between our thoughts and our responses, and we can just have more peace and more connection, more spaciousness. And the final limb in yoga is samadhi or enlightenment. Now, I used to think that I had to go live in an ashram, give up my life, and go someplace like India, or so that I could be enlightened. And enlightenment comes in our day-to-day life. So as householders, how can we use these principles, these disciplines, these practices so that we can be enlightened? So knowing that if I pull up into my before I come into my house, if I could just take a minute to myself to breathe and ground myself, I'm going to have a much easier transition when I see my kids. Or if I can just take a breath before giving a response, I may say the right thing instead of the wrong thing. So this is the Eightfold Path of Yoga. I wanted to share this with you on this International Yoga Day, to know that yoga is much more than just a physical practice. There are principles and disciplines that you can use to create your own moral guidance system, your own moral GPS, so that you can have access to your energy and have vitality in your life so you can do your work. Thanks for joining me for this yoga lesson here, and happy International Yoga Day. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.